Hello everybody and welcome back to Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson, and today I have a raid in the rack video for you because I've been out and got myself a bunch of lovely new plants to add to my collection here in my garden at Crystal Cottage. Listen to the crow. I just love the sound of all the different kinds of birds. Anyway, back to the plants. I have things that are going to grow into trees, small trees, big trees, ground cover, and edible things, and variegated leaves, and all sorts going on. So I just want to bring these plants in one at a time so you can see the different things that I found while I was out. So one of the first plants I want to show you straight away is this beautiful plant in front of me here. I'm going to bring it closer straight away so you can have a look. This is the Turkey oak, or otherwise known as the Austrian oak, and it gets its name because of its leaves looking like the shape of a turkey's foot. Well, that's quite interesting to know, I suppose. And the leaves, they're quite long and thin, and they have the same oak kind of shape as all sorts of oaks, with the smooth, rounded, jaggedy, undulating leaves. Very beautiful, but much, much thinner than, for example, on the English oak. And this is a tree that can get very big. This can get to 25 to 30 meters tall. So if you're going to plant a plant like this, you need to make sure it's in a space where it will be able to grow out and grow into its full potential and be a lovely plant as a backdrop somewhere in your garden. It's a fantastic plant, like all of the different oak trees, for the biodiversity in your landscape, because when it starts getting its rugged bark, there are so many hundreds and hundreds of insects, beetles, birds, bats, all sorts of things that love to be in and around this tree. And I wanted this plant as well because now I'll have 3 different types of oak trees in my garden. I have the English oak, I have the red oak, and now I have the Turkey oak. And that really makes me happy because they are just fantastic trees to be planting out in nature for the future generations to come, because these trees can grow absolutely huge and they can be hundreds of years old. So this tree, long after I am gone from this world, this tree will carry on doing an amazing job for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that just makes me feel so happy that I am starting it off now in my garden here at Crystal Cottage. Have a look at these leaves closer up. So there we go. I really do hope you can see some of these leaves quite clearly, how long, thin, and beautifully shaped they are. Kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Absolutely lovely. So anyway, let's get on to plant number 2 because I have quite a few plants to show you today. So the next plant I have to show you is this ground elder. And the difference between this and the normal elder is, as you can see on the leaves, it is variegated, white around the edges, around the margins, and green in the middle. And this plant is just as edible as its counterpart. And I'm looking forward to putting this in my garden because I have ground elder growing around and about in certain places, and we all know it's a plant that grows very prolifically. We know it can take over borders and areas around and about, maybe where you don't want it, and become a weed, but it's very edible, very good for soups and all sorts of things. And for me, in my garden that has a kind of wild aspect, it's actually a fantastic ground cover, and I have it growing in areas where I absolutely love that it grows, and it can get to around, I don't know, 40, 50 centimeters tall during the summer, and then it grows out its lovely flower stalks with all its white flowers, and they look absolutely amazing. And then all the pollinating insects are encouraged into the garden, and they absolutely love being around this plant, and then they go off and pollinate other plants. So it's absolutely fantastic in the right place, and it's absolutely problematic in the wrong places because it really does spread and it's very difficult to get the roots up. So I'm going to be planting this in amongst where I have this ground elder growing already so that I know that it will be able to take off. But I think this plant, due to the variegation, is probably going to need a little extra light. So I need to make sure it's out on the front edges somewhere so it can actually get that little extra light, and we'll see how it takes off. So have a look at these leaves closer up. So there we go, isn't that lovely? So if you are struggling with ground elder in your garden, why not get yourself a variegated variety and turn it into something even more interesting to look at and appreciate it where it is, redesign your garden to incorporate it, use it as an edible plant and a pollinator plant and a ground cover to keep moisture, and think of all the beauty and the wonderful things that this plant actually does and why it spreads as easy as it does. It actually is helping to keep goodness in your soil. So I'm really pleased I found this. I actually haven't seen it before in the variegated variety. So this is going to be interesting to see how this works out in the garden. Let's get on to the third plant now. Now this next plant I have next to me is absolutely gorgeous. Has lovely leaves with a lovely scent. And of course, the scent is like anise. This is Anise Hyssop. And well, you can see on it, it has these lovely, beautiful purple flowers that come out on the top. It can get to around 50 centimeters tall or so. Edible, perfect for making teas. You could even put these into anything you're kind of baking to get this kind of anise taste. And it's in the mint family as it looks. So once you plant this out, this will probably be able to spread out in an area and fill it out, and you get all the benefits of it being absolutely fabulously edible, and also the beautiful flowers and everything that come out on it. It's absolutely gorgeous. So you can expect there'll be lots of pollinating insects on this plant. And well, we just need to have a closer look at this plant while it's got its flowers on before I get it out in the garden, because it's just gorgeous and I can't stop wanting to smell it. I think I'm going to make myself a nice cup of tea with a couple of these leaves when I'm finished with this video. Have a look at these flowers. So look at these flowers, aren't they absolutely gorgeous? Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. I can't wait to get this out in the landscape. And then look at these lovely leaves on it. It's absolutely beautiful. Any plant that smells as good as this is just a highlight. It's a delight for all of your senses. And I just can't wait to get this out there. So that was the Anise Hyssop, my third plant of the day. Let's get on with number 4. So my next plant I want to show is a little bit bigger here, and you might not be able to see it very clearly right now because of all the green backdrop and my beautiful apple trees behind me here. But this is the black locust. And this plant I decided I wanted to buy and put into my garden because it is absolutely fantastic for fixing the nitrogen in the soil to help benefit all the other plants around it in your garden. And it does that by these little nodules that grow on the roots of the plant. And when you go in and prune back this plant hard back, when it's grown bigger, some of the roots die back and that nitrogen is released back into the soil, and all the plants around it will get the benefit from that. But not only that, as it is now, it's turning into autumn time. This plant has been in a pot for a while. It's been a little bit dry and some of its leaves have turned already into autumn mode and turned yellow. So they're starting to fall off. And when the leaves fall off and onto the soil, they also release nitrogen that can be released back into the soil and help all the plants in that way too. So I want to find a lovely spot for this plant because it's actually very beautiful, and it actually has leaves that look like an acacia tree, which is wonderful because when you plant it out in your garden, especially somewhere like here in the south of Sweden, then it gives the effect of this kind of tropical acacia tree in the garden, even though it's not. It's a thorny plant, and for me that's good because that will help to protect it from all the deer that go around in my garden. And I just want to plot in a little video of a deer wandering around in my garden just behind my apple trees here, and that deer was actually together with 3 others, but they were under the trees where I couldn't actually capture them. But I got one so you can see what I'm talking about when the deers roam around in the garden. Let's go. So here you can see one of 4 cute little deers that was munching away on all the apples under the apple trees, but this one decided to take a little walk all over one of my plant borders to look for more food. And this one was in my bonfire garden area, scratching its side, and then it carried on munching on the lovely fresh green grass with lots of wild plants in it. And well, it must have tasted like a lovely buffet. It stayed there for quite a while. Then on a separate day, I had this deer that decided to walk around into the courtyard garden area, test out the plants on this border, didn't want any of those, and then it strolled over to another border where it started eating my plants. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the little deer roaming around in my garden. And as I say, I really do want to be able to incorporate all the wildlife into my garden. And I just have to rearrange and learn as I go along how I can keep a beautiful garden, sustainable garden, and also allow the wildlife into the garden at the same time. So it's actually quite okay for the most part. They just nibble on the bark on some of the trees, which means I need to protect some of the trunks and the bushes that are going on. So this one, having all these thorns on it, is going to help very well. I just want to bring it a little bit closer so you can see some of the wonderful leaves. So there we go. Now you can see what the leaves of this black locust tree or shrub looks like. We call things shrubs that get more than one main lead trunk or stem. And this can grow into a taller tree to around about 15 meters tall in the right circumstances. But here it will probably stay more like a shrub, and I will be pruning it back, as I said, because I want to use it as a nitrogen fixing plant in my garden. But absolutely wonderful leaves it has. And it can spread by runners, and you can easily take propagations from this plant by doing layering and so forth if you'd like to spread it around. Lovely plant, and as you can see, it gets this lovely yellow color as it goes into autumn mode. So have a look here. Get this lovely yellow effect. And well, I can't wait to get this planted. So let's get on now with the final plant I have today, plant number 5. So this is the 5th plant I have today that I got while I was out raiding the rack, and it's an absolutely amazing ground cover plant. Again, this plant has the most amazing scent. Oh wow, it's just absolutely amazing. This is the absolutely fabulous Variegated Ground Ivy. And this plant, again, I can't stop smelling it, it's so gorgeous. This plant is an evergreen, semi-evergreen plant, depending on the climate. But I'm hoping it's going to be able to stay a little bit evergreen here in my garden here, because that is one of the things I absolutely love, are evergreen plants when we have the long winter months coming up. And it, as you can see, spreads out along the ground with its trailing tentacles here. And it's very easy to propagate. You can just snip bits off and plant them. Every pair of leaves will grow roots and grow out, so you can do lots of propagations, and it grows very fast, spreads very easily, and it's edible, which is absolutely fantastic. Oh, this is a tea or in some kind of food where you want to spice it up a little bit. This will be absolutely perfect. Variegated white and green, and it has a lovely kind of pastel-y green color. I really like that as well. So I'm looking forward to getting this out on the ground, seeing how well it spreads so that I can actually move it around to different areas in my garden where I have bald patches or areas where I need to fill out. And that is what this should do for me. And I've just seen there's a little snail on the bottom here. But have a look at this closer up. Look at these beautiful, beautiful leaves, the lovely shape of them, and lovely texture. Oh, they really do smell gorgeous. I can't wait to get this out growing in my garden. Did you see that one big leaf there? Absolutely beautiful. So this is going to be a lovely extra touch for my garden now as well. And well, I'm starting to lose count with the amount of species and varieties of plants I have in my garden. But the more I can cram in, the more biodiversity there is, and the more animals and insects and amphibians and reptiles and all sorts that come into my garden and enjoy the area with me. And that is what I want. I want to have a little oasis for everything here. So this was just a quick video to showcase some of the new plants that I bought while I was out raiding the rack for my garden. So the pricing of them, I got 3 plants in this kind of fabric pot here for 200 Swedish krona. So that was 200 Swedish krona for 3 plants, and that's okay. And then my turkey oak I paid 300 Swedish krona for, and then the black locust I paid 150 krona for. So I spent a little bit of money, but I think it was well worth it. So all I have to say now is thank you very much once again for watching Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be coming up, and I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.